Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Days with Davo. I'm Davo, and this is a brand new podcast. I want to kind of dive into a few things before I get into the real meat and potatoes of this podcast. This one, we're all going to kind of dive into death. Um, Unfortunately, stuff that's been going on in my life lately that a lot of it is kind of like reoccurring. So I thought it'd be a good idea to go into depth, go into life after death. Where do we go? What happens? I even pinpointed like a few different religions, what they think life after death is all about, and we're gonna we're gonna see which one fits best. To be honest with you, I think they all kind of have like really good ideas on it. So I don't know. I'm kind of stuck, but I'd love to know what you guys think. First things first, I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here before I start because it is Groundhog's Day today, February 2nd, 2025. It's kind of late. I decided to do a podcast like towards the end of the night. It's a school night. It's snowing out, so I'm gonna have to get up early. I'm gonna have to shovel. It's a whole thing. But I wanted to kind of get into this because it's been weighing heavy on me. Those who know me, those who are close to my family, know exactly what's going on. But those of you don't, we're gonna go into a little bit of I guess, a story. I'm gonna tell you how everything broke down. But before that, we're gonna get into Groundhog's Day. Here's my big thing with Groundhog's Day. Okay, we as I guess United States. I don't know. Do we just do it in the United States or is it all over the world? But we kind of look at Groundhog's Day as whether or not we're going to have an early spring. So for years and years and years, they've always done it this way, and they do it in Pennsylvania. And what they do, they have a God, has to be thousands, maybe hundreds, thousands of people at the break of dawn, all lined up around this groundhog's house. And then you have these guys with these top hats that take this poor bastard out of his home, and then they decide whether or not he sees his shadow or not. In my personal belief, you're gonna see your shadow every time. So I don't really buy into the whole thing, but I don't know. I still Google it first thing in the morning. Oh, the groundhog see a shadow? He did. 6 more weeks of winter. I don't believe it though. I think whatever's going to happen is going to happen. We might get a blizzard in May, or we might get 90 degrees in April. We'll see. Number two, second little rant. Not everyone should wear yoga pants. This is something that I've been going back and forth with for a while. I'm sure everyone has thought the same thing. I got this guy at work. His name is Tim. Shouldn't wear yoga pants. I'm sorry. He just shouldn't. So if you are, you know who you are. Put on a pair of jeans. All right. That's it. Those are my two rants. I just kind of wanted to go into that. This episode's called Davo Gets Weird with Death. So from time to time, maybe in this podcast, I might kind of have to collect my thoughts a little bit because it's like heavy on my soul. But we're gonna go into my parents. Two parents. I've been lucky enough to have two. Some only have one, some have none. So I consider myself very lucky to have two. And the first one passed away in 2019. My mom, her name is Donna. She was an amazing soul. Loved her kids, do anything for her kids. Very nurturing, very amazing person. Extremely nosy, needed to know everyone's business. God love her soul. She was amazing, but she passed away unexpectedly. I was at work. I got a phone call at work from my older sister telling me that our mom had just passed away. It was very shocking because I had just talked to my mom a couple of days ago. And in fact, when we bought our house in March of 2019. My mom passed away. Oh God, it wasn't even a month later. It was like almost mid-April 2019. So it was very crazy. It was sort of just ripped from us. Like we saw nothing coming. Maybe she did. Maybe she knew some stuff, but we had no idea. Um, and it's very weird to just get a phone call and say this person has just passed away, because there's a lot of processing that you go through, stuff like that. I personally was talking to my father maybe a day before it happened, and he asked if I wanted to talk to my mom, and I said no. And I was just being a wise ass. I was like, because she was just at her house when we first had bought this house, and she was just here, and I was just being a wise ass, and I was like, I talked to her enough the other day. If I had known it was the last time I was going to talk to her, obviously I would have said something to her. But I didn't. Yeah, I just expected I would talk to her again. But unfortunately, that's the way life happens. Life's weird that way. But this one, my dad, we just actually got news that he has stage 4 lung cancer. Metastatic, went to his brain. Excuse me. Very, very shocking. I want to say maybe right before Christmas. I was doing my last podcast. Well, I was getting ready to do my last podcast, the one about Laurel Canyon. If you guys checked it out, I hope you did, because you probably learned something. Like, Jim Morrison's dad was the one who started the Vietnam War. That's pretty big, but I digress. So I was working on that, and I was sitting at home. It was a Saturday, and I was like, I got nothing to do. I'm going to work on my podcast. I'm going to get all the research done. I was reading the book. It took forever, and I was like, I'm going to put in some good work. And then I look around, and I'm like, And so my wife's like, what's going on? I was like, my bag is at work. And she goes, okay, well, I can't get there because I don't think anyone's there. So I text one of my bosses. He goes, yeah, there's one guy there. Here's his number. Get his number, send him a text. He's like, yeah, door's open, come on in. I'm like, all right, cool. So I go there. I get my bag, wave to the guy, thanks. And I hop in my car and I sit there for a second. I don't leave right away. And I sit there, and something told me to go visit my dad. I'm in West Brookfield. I can just hop on Route 9, go straight into into Hardwick, quick little ride. And so something which I believe is my mom. I believe a lot of times when I take the time to go see my dad, I think it's my mom kind of like talking to me, saying, hey, you haven't seen your dad in a while. Why don't you go visit him? He's by himself, yada, yada, yada. So I did. And I get there. He's a little out of sorts. Like, can't really figure some stuff out. Couldn't tell, different objects in the house, like one from the other. I was like, this is weird. I'm thinking maybe, like, did this guy just have a stroke or early signs of dementia? I mean, he's 70. He'll be 74 on the 20th of this month, actually. But, not that young, but not that old either. So I decide to hang out with him for a little bit, find out what's going on, ask him some qualifying questions without actually like making him think that I'm like worried about him, or I don't want to ruffle any feathers. So after that, I grab his keys and I'm like, Dad, you gonna be all right for a little bit? He's like, yeah, sure, I'm good. I'm like, all right. So he asked if I would pay a bill for him. I was like, no problem. So I sent my sisters a group text. I was like, hey, something going on with Dad. And so we send my aunt, who's a registered nurse over there. She goes over and she asks us some questions. She's like, hey, he didn't really seem that off. And I'm like, okay. She's like, but I really haven't seen him in like 5 years since your mom passed away. So I don't really know what to look for. I get it. So then I call him the next day, let him know I paid a bill and I was going to fill his tank for him, call and make sure, he has enough heat for this season. And he sounded better, like a lot more with it and everything. I was like, okay, so I'm not really going to worry about it. Some time goes by, a few weeks. The holidays, they kind of come and go. And my older sister sends, we have like a group text, and she goes, has anyone talked to Dad? Can't get a hold of him. I'm like, at this point, it's a Friday, 8 o'clock. The guy goes to bed at 5. I was like, well, I'm not going to try him now. I'm not going to get him. So I said, first thing in the morning, I'll give him a call. If he doesn't answer, then I'll go. I call first thing in the morning, no answer. He always answers for me, or he calls me right back, or like when the answering machine starts to pick up, he picks up. No, nothing. So I leave a message. I wait, nothing. So then I send my sisters a text. I'm like, hey, listen, this is what's going on. And then my older sister actually gets a hold of him, tells him that she's going to call him an ambulance because he kind of seems out of it. I was like, don't call my ambulance. I'm on my way. Throw on some clothes, head down there. I go, my wife comes with me. She shuts down her shop. We head straight there. TV's on the living room. That's usually where you find them, with just sitting there watching like Westerns or something on like Animal Planet or something like that. And nothing. He's not there. So I walk down the hall, and as eerie as it is, it's just like, I'm like, oh, what am I going to find? I get down there. He's kind of curled in the fetal position, like trying to sleep. So like in my eyes, I feel like he's trying to sleep it off. So I'm like, hey, Dad, what's going on? Still not feeling that well? Doesn't say anything, just puts on his shoes, comes and sits down. And I mean, like really brief things he's saying to me. And I'm like, well, we go for a ride and go get checked out. So he doesn't fight. He's like, okay. Now my dad's not a doctor person, so this was pretty big. We get in the car. He's sitting shotgun. We're driving down there. I'm asking him some questions, and I'm really getting maybe like yes, no, like really a minute in between what he's trying to, from when I ask the question to when he answers, like really like a good span. So we're going there, and then all of a sudden, like I have a new coffee mug, and I had the coffee in there, and then I look down, and he's takes the coffee, and he's just like drinking it like he's never drank before. I was like, oh, wow. So we ask him if he wants water. He starts drinking water. We get to the hospital, and mind you, at this point, like right after the holidays, like right after New Year's, the place was jacked. I mean, everyone is in the ER. And I was like, oh God, this is not going to be good. There's not a seat, no seats. So we put him in a wheelchair, and we bring him up to the place, and they're asking him some questions. And then the lady at the desk, they can obviously see there's something like wrong, like he's not with it at all. So they bring him right in. Doctor comes in, asks him some questions, yada, yada, yada. They automatically do blood work. They're going to send him for x-rays. So they send him for x-rays. X-rays come back. They find a couple spots in the lungs, and they had said they could see a couple spots like on the brain. They're like, this is what we think it is. It looks like cancer. He's like, I feel like it's metastatic. So it went to his brain, started in his lungs, went to his brain. That's where you're getting like a lot of this cognitive sort of malfunctions. And we're like, oh shit, like this terrible news. So there are no beds there. So he's just like in a bed in right next to the nurse's station. There's no rooms. And he was there, and they're like, well, we need to do an MRI. We're going to do a CAT scan. But they're like, we really can't do it here. We're going to transfer him to Bay State. But on like us, Bay State, no beds over there. So we had to wait. He ends up getting transferred in the middle of the night. He gets tests done the next day. We talked to some of the doctors, and they wanted to do a biopsy, but they really couldn't get to the biopsy. But they did. They did an MRI. They found out that he's got cancer in his lymph nodes. It's stage 4. It's I mean, at this point, they like to use, and this is like my first time in it. I'm sure a lot of people have dealt with this before, but they like to use it in weeks. So we're like, how much time does he have left? And they're like, well, we like to put in weeks. Could be 2, could be 4, could be 6, could be 8. We're like, oh, okay. So a lot of emotions come through. You start thinking about the type of relationship that you had with your parents, or in this case, my dad. Now, if you guys have followed me for a little while, I do. I used to do different videos where I'm driving in the car, and I did one not that long ago called Basement Dads. And Basement Dads was all about the father figure, could be a mom for all I know, who they go to work every day. They do what they have to do to keep a roof over your head. They make sure you're fed, but you never really get a whole lot from them. But, oh, it's like emotionally, they're not really there. They're like in the basement. They're doing their thing in the basement. In my case, my dad, he's recovered now, but he was an alcoholic, and so it's like go down the basement, have some beers, you know. So that was sort of like our thing. But for a long time growing up, I kind of resented that. You want more out of your parent. You always want them to be, I don't know, like let's say we pick a TV show dad, you know, one that's always there. Like, let's say, like the Bob Saget character from Full House, you know, like that sort of thing, you know, like always there to talk to you when you need them, this and that. You don't really have that. But so there's a show that I've watched. I'm actually in my second time now. Ted Lasso, if you ever seen it, it's two-time Emmy award winning, and a lot of great quotes from that. And there's one where some guy has an issue with his dad, and he's talking to another guy who's actually a great dad. And the great dad didn't always have a great relationship with his dad. So he had this one quote that really rang true to me, and I learned to accept my father for who he was after this. He said, you have to love him for who he is, but you also have to forgive him for who he's not. And that was like big to me. And the more I kind of got into like my dad and how he was brought up, I sort of just like looked at him. I was like, dude, you never had a chance. Like, you did literally the best that you could with the cards that you were dealt. We're good. We're good. So, a long time ago, I made my peace with him. We're good. So, after my mom passed away, I would check in on my dad here or there. And so that's where we are today. But it's also, it's very taxing over the past month, because when he left that day, when we took him to the hospital, he hasn't been back to his house. And I try to think myself, like, what would that be like if you left your house and you just never went back? Like all your stuff, all your things, all everything. You didn't get to say goodbye to anything. You just left, and you're not coming back because you can't come back because you're not able to take care of yourself. And the house that you have is not equipped for you to for someone else to take care of you too. So it's very weird. So I mean, me and my sisters, we've been getting together. We've had a few trips over to his house, and we're gonna have to like clean it out, and we're going through all this kind of like nostalgia and stuff like that. It brings up a lot of emotions. Um, but on top of that, just going back and forth to the hospital to see him as much as we can, because when they say, you know, you like to use his time in weeks, well, which is it? 2, 4, 6, 8? I mean, right now it's been definitely over 2. He seems better. They've been giving him steroids, bring down the swelling on his brain, so he's a little more with it, but you can still tell that there's stuff missing. But so from your day to day, where you have to work, and then after work, if you can shoot out there and see them, but sometimes you can't, and then you try to make do with the best of your time, because you still have to live. You have to raise your family. You have to make sure you're paying the bills. You got to do all this other stuff. So it's just exhausting, mentally, physically, emotionally. Very exhausting time. But, you know, I just want to thank everyone that's reached out so far. That's been really great. It's kind of like listen to us vent. The rocks in our family that are like keeping us up, holding us up. And if we've been lashing out here or there, they haven't called us a dick. So, you know, thank you. So yeah, that's about it. That's where I'm at. And so that's why I wanted to do this podcast on death. What happens when our soul leaves our body? So I dove into a few religions and we're going to go over them, and I'm going to give you my idea, which I think is probably the most accurate. But that's just my idea. But before that, there was a while back. I don't even know how long it was. I was listening to Joe Rogan. He had Tim Kennedy on. And Tim Kennedy had this great quote about the three stages of how you view your parents. And I swear I wrote it down somewhere. Couldn't find it anywhere. And for like years, I've been like bringing it up to people, but I butcher it every time because I'm like, I don't 100% remember all of it. So I went back to the Tim Kennedy episodes and I'm listening to them. Unfortunately, one of the episodes is from like 2020. And so, you know how hard it is to listen to something that happened during COVID? Like, it's very weird. Do you guys remember COVID? A lot of us forget how crazy and weird it was. But yeah, so kind of going through that. But regardless, I listened to two different ones, one from like 2020, one from 2023. Guess what? Couldn't find them. Can't find them anywhere. So I'm like, did he really say it? Was it a time slip? Did I make this up in my head? Who knows? But I finally Googled it and I have it. So I'm going to read it with you guys. And you're going to love it. I hope you love it. I love it. All right. So the the general topic is the three stages and how you view your parents. So stage one, unconditional love. As a child, you generally view your parents with admiration and trust, seeing them as all knowing and capable. When you're little, that's how you see them. Stage two, you're older, probably a teenager, early 20s, criticism and judgment. As you become an adolescent, you may start to question your parents' decisions and see their imperfections, leading to criticism and potential conflict. Stage three, probably when you're older, maybe you have your own kids, understanding and forgiveness. In adulthood, you may gain a deeper understanding for your parents' lives, motivations, leading to forgiveness for past mistakes and renewed appreciation for their role in your life. Pretty astounding. I thought anyway. I was real big on that quote, and I think I will always kind of view it because I've gone through those stages. And I can remember being little thinking your parents are, superheroes. And then as you get older, you're like, what are you guys doing? Like you think you know better than them because you're a teenager and you're smart and they're not. And then as you get older, you understand certain things. Maybe you hear different stories about how they grew up or why they did the things that they did. And you understand what they went through, how they went through it, and they really just did the best that they could. We're all sort of just trying our best and hope that we don't create a serial killer, I guess. All right, so we're going to go into a few religions, and this is what I got about their beliefs of life after death. First, let's go with the Buddhists. Centers around the concept of rebirth, also known as samsara. I'm probably butchering that, but there's going to be a few of those, which is more of a cycle of death and rebirth. They believe that through accumulation of karma and eventual enlightenment, one can escape the cycle and achieve enlightenment. So I always thought, as far as like karma goes, and I kind of like that. And I mean, I'll go back with my whole history on how I was raised with sort of religion. If you saw my very first podcast, you know exactly how I was raised and what I did and where I came from, and how I've changed my view on a lot of things. But that one, reincarnation, and keep on getting reincarnated until you get it right. It's a whole lot with karma. Like, don't be a shithead, live a good life, and eventually you get to break the cycle and go on to, everlasting life. Now, the Hindus, rich and complex, encompassing various beliefs and practices, the soul is immortal and can sometimes travel through multiple births until it reaches final liberation. Along with Buddhists, it follows the laws of karma, where actions in one life determine the nature of the next. So, kind of the same, but kind of different. All right, now we get into the way I was raised, Christianity. um, Now, when I say where I came from and where I am now, like I do, like I was always raised, you don't believe in reincarnation. Um, you follow the Bible and you hold the Ten Commandments, and then you believe in Jesus. And if you are not a shithead, then you get judged, and then you go to heaven forever. But if you are a shithead, then you go to hell. Um, but I don't know. I don't know if I really believe in that. I just believe. I guess I just believe be a good person, and then eventually you make it to the final. I guess your final stage. So Christianity, based on faith and resurrection of Jesus Christ, according to his teachings, death is not the end, but a transition to a new form of existence. Judgment after death. Christians believe that they will be judged on their actions and faith. This determines whether they go to heaven or swim laps in the lake of fire. Second coming is when Jesus returns to earth, and all those who died will be resurrected too. That one I never knew. I guess maybe I went to Catholic school too, and I'm pretty in on like a lot of the religious beliefs. I mean, Bible stories always kind of interested me. Not just Old Testament's kind of cool though. It's a bit violent, but I liked it. But the New Testament too, like I liked a lot of the stories. So when I was reading into it, it says that I didn't know that Jesus is supposed to come back, and then the people that are up in heaven, like their souls, they come down and they're reunited with their loved ones. Yeah. Kind of crazy. Conditional immortality versus universalism. There we go. Words are hard. Where believers think only those who are believers in Christ have eternal life, as opposed to universalism beliefs that everyone will eventually be saved and enter eternal life with God. So, I guess I would probably go with the latter, if that's where I was going to. I mean, I think everyone can be saved. All right, so that's kind of Christianity in a nutshell. Do this, go to church every Sunday. If you don't, you don't get to go to heaven. I think that's pretty much. Oh, and you got to believe in Jesus. If you don't believe in Jesus, you go to hell. Jewish faith. This one I found is kind of, I never really looked into it, but it's kind of like all over the place. They have a resurrection, and then they have the immortality of the soul. World to come. This belief consists of a perfected version of the world after the Messiah comes, and God has judged the living and the dead. Some Jews feel that the virtuous will be reunited with the loved ones, and their souls will continue to live in this world. It's like, I mean, when you really get down to it, it's kind of all the same, I mean, other than like Buddhists and Hindus believe in reincarnation. And then they have another one, and I'm totally going to butcher this. Sheol in Jenanan. If I have any Jewish friends out there, please send me a direct message and make fun of me a little bit, because I guarantee that's not how you pronounce it. Sheol, also considered a hell, often described as an underworld, a place of darkness where souls reside after the death. Jnana is seen as a place of purification or torment. The duration is not defined, but seems to be kind of temporary. Reincarnation. Some Jewish faiths do believe in reincarnation, which I found that very weird. Heaven, often seen as a reward for righteous people, where they experience true bliss, or better known as Dave and Buster's. Eternal life on earth. Some also believe that heaven is a transition period to where the soul is reunited with the body and live happily ever after on earth. So that's kind of like, I mean, other than like them having like a bunch of different like Jewish faiths where some people believe this, some people believe that. It was kind of close to Christianity. Scientology. Now this one, this was the last one I dove into, and I almost didn't. I almost forgot about it, and I was like, Scientology is a whacked out religion. Let's see what they think. And I was a little let down. It was not that crazy. All right, so the belief is that I may be butchering this one as well. Thetan, maybe Thetan. Basically, your soul or your consciousness. When a person dies, they have no judgment phase, but instead automatically continues its existence through reincarnation into a new body. This process is continuous and has been ongoing for billions of years. The Thetan, being indestructible, is believed to have lived countless lives on Earth and other planets. And this one gets really juicy. As far as ritual burials or cremations, they're kind of okay with whatever you want for a really whacked out weird religion. Like they're okay. Do whatever you want. So I don't know. I guess the way I look at Scientology, the way I look at Monopoly, once you pass go, collect $200 and keep moving. Sure. So I think that's all of it in a nutshell. I don't know. I kind of like the Scientology one. I'm not going to lie. That we've been kind of going back and forth for billions of years. But I also like the Buddhist one, where keep on doing it till you get it right. And once you get it right, then you're good. And then you get to, hang out with God and your loved ones and this and that. But I have been having a lot of weird dreams with everything that's been going on, and like a lot of whacked out weirdness. But hey, I guess it is what it is, right? Emotionally, physically, spiritually exhausted. It's gonna happen. So that's what I got for this podcast with Davo Gets Weird with Death. So if you want, you can hit me with a direct message. You can comment on any of these, any way that you check out my podcast. If you don't know how to check my podcast, you can catch it on Spotify with Days with Davo, or we have it on YouTube, Days with Davo, or Rumble, Days with Davo. So check it out, one of those three. And also, we have Days with Davo t-shirts just came out. So if you follow me on Facebook, you can find them there. It's just a link through Amazon. So check it out. I would love to see someone walking down the street with one of them. So with that, I guess that's it, man. That's what I got. All right. So everyone, be good to get each other. Spend time with your loved ones because you really don't know how long you have. All right. That's all I got. Be good. Peace. Love you. Bye.